Hello and welcome once again. Today we're going to do an introduction to Google Sheets. As you can see on my desktop, I have a shortcut. For most of you, you can go to your Google app to shortcut. If you don't have that, move down here to the handy dandy search box and type in Google, and that'll get you there. Once on the Google page, you'll see a box of dots. Actually, I think they're squares, but I like dots better. And what this is, it's the launch for the Google apps. And as you can see, there are a couple pages of apps, and you can even get more if you wanted to. A real nice feature about this is I can move these around to get the ones up front that I use the most often. And today, it's Google Sheets. When I open my version of Google Sheets, it opens up to the jobs that I've been working on. But what I want to draw your attention to is the template gallery. In here there are pre-made templates, and as you can see, all kind of different ones that you can download. The idea here is the format is already done. It's just a matter of inputting the information that you have. It's a big time saver whenever possible. But to get to the nuts and bolts of Google Sheets, we need to click the blank tab here and get to the grid. This is the grid. This is where all the formatting and inputting of data begins and ends. We have columns and rows, and down here at the bottom there are sheets. There are 200 sheets available within this app. There are 40,000 rows and over 18,000 columns. If I keep putting in data going to the right, it'll stretch out to like it's 18,278 columns that can be used within this, which basically means you've got plenty of space. I'm going to go up here in the top and give this a name. I'm going to clear this out and just call it test, and I'll enter that, and now we have our test document here. As you've already guessed, Google Sheets is short for spreadsheet, and a spreadsheet is generally used for organization, analysis, and storage of data. When inputting data, you're going to work with cells. This here is a cell, and every cell on this grid has a name. You always start out with column first, so the name of this cell is A1. If I go down here, this cell is E14, and over here this cell would be H15. Everything has a name. Now if I do this is called a range. A range is a group of cells, and this also has a name. In this case it would be C6 through G16. Quick review. There are columns, rows, sheets, cells, and ranges. For those of you who have used Microsoft Excel, this is looking very familiar, and you would be correct. However, Google Sheets is not as powerful nor in depth as Excel, but it does offer some advantages that I really like, and let me show you one now. I'm going to put some data, basically gibberish, in this cell right here and tab over. Well, gee, that looks really nice. I think I'll save that, so I'll drop down here to my file and hit the save option that I cannot find. There's no save option here. Why isn't there? That's because you see this little cloud with a check mark in it? Everything I do on my grid, whether I input data, take out data, rearrange, whatever I do on this grid is automatically saved to my Google Drive. I don't have to do anything, which is really nice. Let's say you get a phone call or you get interrupted. You don't have to worry about it. It's done for you. Now let me do this. Let me go back on this cell and clear it out. Now watch the cloud once I clear this cell out. Alright, automatically saving, save to drive. It's done. On to the next. With regards to entering data, you've heard me say tab over a few times, and I put my F's back in and hit tab over, and as you can see, it goes to the next column. You can also use the right arrow key if you want to move to the next row. Now for a lot of us, once we input data, we automatically hit the return or enter key. In this case, if you do that, it drops you down to the next row, and that's fine, but if you're entering data in one specific row, you'll want to tab over, and it's kind of what I do is I tab over and I enter down. As you probably noticed in the last segment, I had this entire row highlighted, and you can do that. Actually, you can do it with multiple rows, which is really nice for formatting and copying. And the same can be done with the columns. You can highlight all kinds of columns, and for the same reasons, basically. You'll see a launch button here. If I click this, you get a whole group of commands to use for this particular column. Cut, copy, paste. You can delete a column, clear, hide, resize the column. If you have a bunch of data in here and you want to sort it, you can sort it A to Z or Z to A. There's just a lot of things you can do within that particular column. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to add some data into this grid, and we're going to go through this, this is called a ribbon, by the way. We're going to go through all the icons or commands in this ribbon and see what they do and how they work, and with the idea being that I don't confuse you or me. So I went and got a template, and this is an assignment tracker template that's already pre-made, and we're going to kind of mess around with this and change things and do things with it. So anyway, starting off in our ribbon here, we have one of the greatest inventions known to mankind since the walk on the moon, and that's the undo button. As you can see, this was different color, I undid it. Now if I want to redo it, I can take it back, take it away, put it back. Truly a marvelous invention. Beside that is the print option. Once your sheet is done and the job is completed, you can print it off right from here. Next to that is the format painter, and it does exactly what it says. It paints the format. I went ahead and highlighted this box. Now I will click the tool and go down here to biology and click, and as you can see, it painted the format, and even the size is the same. This is a really handy tool if you're doing multiple sheets and have a lot of titles that are the same. It'll save you a lot of time. Moving to the right is the zoom feature. I've got this set at 150 to make things easier to see, and actually if you're editing, it does help. Next to that, we have decimal points and different things we can do. I've got this box highlighted. If I click here, we get a dollar sign. I can make it a percent. Can move the decimal around a little bit, but in here, if you drop down this box, you've got all kind of things you can do, from scientific, accounting. You can go into date, time, duration. If I hit duration, it goes to 60 minutes, which is kind of neat. Next to that was we have the font styles, and ideally all you want to do here is just get something that's readable and easy to the eye. Font size, this is right here is a 10 point. We go up here, it's a 36 point. Beside that is the bold option. We can make the text bold. We can italicize and strike through. We can change the color of the font. We can turn this into a red. And then we could add some color to the background, but you have to be careful in using your colors. Obviously you want something that's readable, and I don't think this is very readable at this point, so I'm going to change it to something else. Just add a little color in the background. It makes it a lot nicer. Adding color to your presentation does improve the overall appearance. Just be careful. Now we're up to borders, and let's say that I want to put a nice border underneath this row right here. So I'll highlight the row, I'll go up to borders, and I just want to put a bottom border on this, and as you can see, there it is. But after looking at it, I may think, you know what, I don't want that border there, so now I want to get rid of it. Here's my empty box. If I click my empty box, that takes away the border. You do have some options with borders. You obviously can color the border, which is kind of nice. You also have different borders to choose from. Now there's a double line there. You've got dots. You've got a thick border, a medium, and a thin border. And let's go ahead and try a thin border while we've got this going here. And let's put it down at the bottom. And there is a thin border. Let's merge some cells. If you look here, cell B2 and C2 have been merged together for the title. And then moving down here, cells D through G2 have been merged together for a short paragraph. Well, how's that work and what's it look like? Let's move down here to row 10. I drug this down to make it easier to see. And I'm going to highlight A10. And then highlight B10 and C10. Go up here to merge, merge all, and as you can see, we have one large cell. Now while we're here, let me show you something else. When it comes to cells, there's two ways to be: on the cell and by double clicking in the cell. Now I'm in the cell, so if I want to make some edits to the text, I can do that. If I were to be on the cell, in other words a single click, and I wanted to make an edit to the text, I'm going to lose it. So kind of keep in mind, if you want to get rid of text, be on the cell. If you want to edit the text, double click to get in the cell. Let's say that I decided, well, you know what, I don't need this one large cell. I want to go back to where it was. So I'll go back up here to merge cells and simply unmerge. And now I have A10, B10, and C10 as their own cells. Alright, now we're on to horizontal align, and this is pretty well cut and dry. You can justify to the left, you can justify center, or you can go to the right. I'm a center kind of guy, so I'm going to justify to the center. It just works for me. Dropping down to another cell, this is vertical align. You can put the text at the top of the cell, or in the middle, or you can drop it to the bottom. And again, I'm a center kind of guy. That's what works for me. Text wrapping. Kind of like merging, but not really. In this case, even though we've already merged it, we do have a small paragraph to fit in here. If I unwrap this text, you see what happens. Now, anything that you type in, and when I say anything, any kind of data that you type into a cell that you don't see, the data, whatever you typed, is still there even though you can't see it. One trainer described it as an illusion. Just believe that the text or data, whatever you've typed in, is there even though you can't see it. Again, I could take this and stretch it out to make everything fit, but as you can see, I'd have to stretch a mile to get it all to fit, and then there's all this dead space down here, and I don't want to do that. So, by wrapping the text within these four merged cells, the short paragraph wraps itself right in nicely. Text rotation, the ability to rotate text vertically or at an angle. I've highlighted these cells right here. Now I'm going to change the format and move the data to an angle like this. I also have the option for custom angles. Right now we're at 45 degrees. We can change this to 30 degrees. One of the advantages to rotation is since these cells are at an angle, I now have the option to resize the column and make the spreadsheet a little smaller. This function comes in real handy if having to work with multiple columns of data, so not only does it look kind of neat, It can also save space. Next to that is insert a link. You can paste a link or search for one in this box. If you're working with multiple spreadsheets in your workbook, you can assign links to each sheet. And then moving down here, you can select a range. Remember, we talked about range of cells earlier. You can select a range of cells to link. You can also add a comment to your spreadsheet. Just choose a cell that you want to comment on and type in your message. Tap the comment button and your message is there. Our last three options, insert a chart, create a filter, and the functions options will require some additional information for us to edit. Let me grab that and I'll be right back. As you can see, I imported this Excel spreadsheet, and if I click on this, I get a couple options. The first is view only, which means I can view this Excel spreadsheet in Google Sheets, or I can edit this Excel spreadsheet in Google Sheets, and what happens here is Google will make a copy of the Excel file for editing. Now in my Google Drive, I will have a copy of the file as an Excel and as a Google Sheet. This is a really nice feature because let's say someone calls me up and says, can you send me this spreadsheet and I need it in Excel? Well, I will have a copy of the Excel file in my Google Drive, or if they want me to send it as a Google Sheet or Google Spreadsheet, I'll have a copy of that in my Google Drive, which is kind of handy. Here is the Excel spreadsheet, and actually I think I made this last year, and it's the top 9 best-selling albums. Everybody does top 10. I did something different. On our ribbon, we're up to charts, and what I'm going to do now is highlight these last 2 columns and click charts, and there's our first chart. Now I'm going to move this down a little bit to make it a little more readable, and as you can see, it gives us sales in millions versus Genoa, and we can just kind of go across here and compare, but I want to show you the 3 dots. Some folks call this a snowman, so if you're so inclined, click on the snowman and that'll give us some options. We can edit the chart, delete it, download an image or document. You can publish the chart, copy, move, alter the text. You have options. Speaking of options, if we go over here and drop down this box, it gives us a bunch of different styles of charts to choose from. And I'm going to go to one of my all-time favorites, the pie chart. And this actually worked out pretty well. This is kind of nice. If I click on this, I can actually resize this chart too. I can make it a lot bigger, or I can move it down. Some charts will not work. Let's click on this candlestick chart and see what we get. Now it's telling us it requires at least 5 columns, but only 2 are provided, and as you can see, I've only got 2 columns highlighted. I went ahead and highlighted these 5 columns to see if this candle box chart would work. So let's click it and see what happens. It says column 2 must be numeric. Well, column 2 here is text, so that's not going to work. And you'll run into that with charts, and the best advice I can give you is don't blow a day just trying to figure a chart. Find one that works, find one that's clean, that's readable, and run with that. Let's try and filter now some data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this column right here of the years, and I'm going to filter out a year or 2, and I'll do that after I highlight. I'm going over here to data. This is the easiest way I found to do it, and move down here to create a filter. Now this reminds me of a strainer, so That's what I call it. But anyway, if I click on this, now I have some things I can do with it. Now obviously sort A to Z, Z to A, that's text. We're using numeric here. But what I want to do is I want to filter out the year 1977. So I'm going to do that, click OK, and as you can see, the years, there were 3 of them, 1977 are now filtered from this spreadsheet. I haven't lost that data. I still have the data. It's just not being shown here. Now if I undo what I just did, as you can see, all 3 years have returned. While we're here, I got a little extra something I want to show you. I've got this cell highlighted, and if you see down here in the corner there's a little box. If I run the cursor over that box, I get a cross. And every cell that has text or a date or a number, all of them have the little box. If I get the cross and click and drag, you see how it copied the main cell. So if you've got a lot of repetitive data that you're trying to get in, rather than having to type it in, you can light up the cell, hit the box, and make copies. Another nice feature, and let's go over here to ranking. I'm going to highlight 6, 7, 8, and 9, and I'm going to grab the box and drag down, and as you can see, it recognized the sequence. And you can do this with months, years, days. You grab 3 or 4, highlight them, grab the box and drag it down. It'll automatically put the sequence in for you, and that is a nice shortcut. Now it's functions, and according to a lot of trainers, functions, or formulas as they're called, give spreadsheets their power. You have a lot of choices, a lot of places you can go here. I mean, stats, look at all this. These are all individual functions for stats, or the buzzword these days is analytics. But what I want you to understand is this: you don't need to learn every one of these functions. Most of them you will probably never use. Keeping it easy and simple, when I click the function command, these 5 automatically come up, and they're probably the most used. Sum is addition, the average number, count the numbers, and of course max and minimum numbers. I'm going to highlight this column right here, and we're going to add all these numbers up. So what I'll do is I'll click and hit sum. Now here is the formula or function. You always start out with an equal sign, sum for addition, and then we're going to individual cells, F4, which is right here, and remember the colon means through, F12, which is here. Now, when I hit return, there's my total. The great thing about this is, let's say I want to change this number down the road. It's changed, so I'll put this back in here. Now it's already recalculated because I took the 40 million out. Now let me hit return with the new number, and there's my new total. Alright, now let me show you this up here. You see right here there's a formula there, but we can't see it. But yes, we can if we go up here. There's the formula sitting right there. And as a matter of fact, anything that you type in will show up in this bar, which is kind of handy. Alright, let's do another one. Let's light up this column here, and we're going to do an average. So we'll go up here and hit average, and there's my formula. Equals, and of course, average, D4, which is here, through D12, and then we'll go over and hit return, and there is our average, 1981. And just to clean that up, I'll go over here to the decimal point, and I'll just take, as soon as I click on the cell, very important, start taking these out, and there you are. There's the average. The final function that I want to show you today is the share option, and this is pretty convenient, as once I get this spreadsheet completed, I don't have to go anywhere except right here, and now I can share with people in groups. So let me add in the guy I want to share this with and add it there. Now as you can see, editor comes up. Now what this means is once I send this to him, he can make edits to the spreadsheet. Commenter could make comments about the spreadsheet, and the viewer obviously can only view the spreadsheet. I can add a short message. The spreadsheet's already here and ready to go, so all I've got to do is click send, and it's off and gone. Well, group, we've been through the ribbon. If you get stuck on something, please shoot me an email and I'll help you out as best I can. Until then, happy spreadsheeting.